In 1993, a woman named Erin Walker disappeared from a small petrol station near the edge of Black Ridge, a rural settlement tucked deep in Victoria's High Country. She was 24 years old, worked the late shift at the servo, and kept mostly to herself. She left behind no note, no bag, no known enemies. 3 years later, her body was found in a shallow creek bed, partially buried beneath a mess of rock and debris, and though her death sparked quiet whispers in the town, it never brought answers. Erin had moved to Black Ridge just 9 weeks earlier, renting the back unit of a weatherboard duplex owned by an elderly couple named Greg and Marlene Douglas. She paid cash for everything, declined social invites, and spoke only when spoken to. But she was polite, soft-spoken, always careful with her words. She volunteered part-time at the fire lookout tower 3 kilometers out of town. Locals said she enjoyed the view. She'd bring a thermos and sit alone for hours, scribbling in a spiral notebook she never let anyone else read. Greg, her landlord, told police she didn't sleep much, said her light would flicker on and off throughout the night, like she was pacing or checking the window. She double-locked her door, kept the blinds drawn, even on hot days. Her co-worker at the servo, a 19-year-old named Alex, said she had a ritual. Every shift, Erin would open by counting the keys 3 times, once silently, once aloud, and once backwards. She'd wipe down the counter obsessively, even if no one had touched it. Alex once joked that she was acting like she expected something to happen. Erin looked at him and said, "It already has," then walked away. On June 2nd, 1993, Erin was scheduled to close up the servo. By 7:30 p.m., it was winter, so the sun had already set. The temperature had dropped below 5 degrees, and mist had begun to settle across the foothills. She was seen that evening by her last customer, an off-duty ranger named Tom Bolton. He bought a pie and a Coke and told police Erin seemed distracted, kept glancing toward the rear of the store. When he asked if everything was okay, she smiled and said, It's just been a long day. The CCTV footage, grainy and black and white, showed her at 7:28 p.m. locking the front door and walking to her car. She stopped briefly and looked left toward the tree line that bordered the side of the lot. Something seemed to catch her attention, though the footage wasn't clear enough to show what. Then she stepped off camera. The next morning, the postman found her blue Datsun sitting in the gravel behind the servo, driver's side door open, keys still in the ignition. The radio was on, playing static. Her handbag was on the passenger seat, zipped shut. The police arrived an hour later. They walked the perimeter, checked the woods, and found nothing. No signs of a struggle, no drag marks, no footprints. The security tape was reviewed again. It confirmed the time she locked up, but it didn't explain where she went or why. There was no note at her unit, no packed bag. Her dog, Tilly, was still in the yard, barking until she lost her voice. Her wallet, medication, and clothes were untouched. Erin was epileptic. She required medication daily. That detail alone should have triggered urgency, but it didn't. Authorities filed her as a standard missing person. In their working theory, she left voluntarily, either overwhelmed or escaping something unknown. But Greg Douglas said her landlord insisted otherwise. He told the local paper that Erin wasn't running. She was bracing. He recalled that 2 nights earlier he'd seen her out front at 3 and 12 a.m., standing barefoot in the driveway, staring up at the sky. When he called out to her, she didn't respond. She just turned and went back inside. The next day, she asked if he'd ever heard of a sound like whistling, but not from a person. from the bush. Greg said no. She nodded and muttered, "Didn't think so." The only possible witness to her disappearance came forward 2 days later. A truck driver, Neil B., said he'd seen a woman matching Erin's description walking along Black Ridge Road near Sundown Gully around 10:15 p.m. She was barefoot, wearing what looked like a sheet. She didn't look at him, just walked with her arms at her sides, fast and stiff. He said the strange part wasn't that she didn't wave or ask for help. It was that she was moving away from the road toward the trees, and no physical evidence ever backed up Neil's account. The area received heavy rain the following night. Whatever was there, if anything, was gone by the time police looked. The sighting was logged, but unofficially dismissed. Erin Walker became a name that faded as quickly as she arrived. No one came forward, no one was charged, no search beyond the basics was organized. And in time, even the town stopped asking questions. 3 years passed. Erin Walker's name faded from the news, then from conversations. Her face was removed from the community board at the police station. Her file was moved into the archive drawer beneath 13 other missing persons from the region. Then, in November 1996, 2 trail riders came across something unexpected in a dry creek bed north of Sundown Ridge. They were off course. One had taken a spill and was resting, while the other checked the surrounding bush for a path back. That's when he saw it, a curve of bone jutting from the bank, too big to be a kangaroo, too smooth. The scene that unfolded was messy. The men called local police from a ranger's radio shack 7 kilometers away. When officers arrived, they found scattered remains partially buried beneath sediment and rock. A fire-damaged boot, a disintegrating badge lanyard, a crushed piece of plastic that had once been a pharmacy pillbox. The DNA analysis confirmed it was Erin. Her dental records matched, although her jaw had been removed entirely. Forensic examiners reported no signs of animal scavenging. It had been cut cleanly, as if by surgical blade or saw. The coroner couldn't determine a cause of death, but something else was noted. A chemical compound, olanzapine, was present in her bones. Erin had never been prescribed antipsychotics. At the time, that specific drug was only accessible under psychiatric supervision. The investigation reopened, and with it, questions that had long been ignored. How did she end up 12 kilometers from where her car was found, through terrain difficult even for seasoned hikers? Why was only one shoe recovered? And how did no trace of her clothing survive? More disturbing still, under the roots of a small tree, officers found a fire ring, stones arranged neatly. At its center, a burned length of rope knotted 3 times. When asked, one forensics officer said it looked like the remains of a restraint. With the recovery came silence, not from police, but from the town. People who once speculated in whispers clammed up. 2 residents who'd previously told neighbors they saw something strange suddenly refused interviews, but rumors still rippled beneath the surface. The first pointed to Darren Weeks, a man in his 40s known for living in a corrugated iron hut on the edge of Black Ridge. No phone, no license. Weeks had been questioned before in relation to a different assault case in 1991, but never charged. He often scavenged in the woods near where Erin's remains were found. Some said he dug pits in the bush to catch wild dogs. Others believed he collected animal bones to sell at markets, but one claim stood out. A former teacher said Weeks had once brought her a bracelet. A silver chain identical to one Erin's sister described her wearing the night she vanished. That bracelet was never logged into evidence. In fact, no such item was found with the body. Another rumor pointed to a man known only as Len, a retired forest ranger who lived alone and was said to know every inch of the gorges. People respected him, but didn't really know him. Len helped search for a missing child in 1987, found the child's shoe, but not the child. When Erin vanished, Len didn't join the search. A hiker later claimed to have seen Len burning something in a rusted oil drum 2 days after Erin disappeared. They reported it, but no record of that report exists in the police file. When reporters asked Len about the allegations, he simply said, "You don't find what doesn't want to be found." 2 years later, Len's vehicle was discovered abandoned. Not far from where Erin's body was recovered, he was never seen again. By 1999, the Erin Walker case had already become something more than just a cold file. It had become a story, a warning. Former police officer Stan H., who worked the original missing person report, later claimed files from the investigation had been lost during a station transfer. Not just copies, but originals, photos, logs, recordings, gone. A year later, a freelance journalist received an anonymous letter, typed "no return address." The envelope smelled faintly of smoke. Inside was a single page. It read, "She didn't run. She was taken. The place you found her isn't where she died. Ask about the hollow behind marker 12. There was no marker 12 on any official map of the trail system, but longtime rangers admitted that before the 1983 Ash Wednesday fires, there had been trail markers carved into trees near a now abandoned mining site. The records had never been digitized. In 2002, a group of university students conducting environmental fieldwork stumbled across that very hollow behind a dead tree with the number 12 carved at its base. Inside, they found rusted food tins, a tarp, scorched branches, and a child's toy melted at one end. Police investigated, but released no official statement. Within months, the site was bulldozed during a controlled fire prevention project. Locals called it convenient. Theories still circulate. Some say Erin was taken and kept alive, just drugged and hidden. Others believe she saw something she shouldn't have, something involving people in town, people still alive. Today, Erin Walker's case remains unsolved. No arrests, no further updates, but her name lives on, carved into a metal plaque bolted to the fence line outside the old servo lot. The petrol station itself burned down in 2007 under suspicious circumstances. It was ruled an accident, though the insurance claim was never processed. The unit she rented demolished in 2011. Her landlord, Greg Douglas, passed away the same year. His daughter said he died with a box of Erin's belongings still under his bed. Among them, a set of handwritten notes torn from her spiral notebook, Kukima, the same one she kept with her at the fire lookout. They weren't dated, but one entry stood out. The man in the ute. He waited outside again, didn't come in, just sat there with the engine off. I could hear breathing, but not his, something else. Was it a real threat, a delusion, a fragment of paranoia from someone with untreated trauma? No one can say. But the community of Black Ridge remains haunted, not by ghosts, but by memory, by the suspicion that someone somewhere still knows exactly what happened and said nothing. This is Caught Off Path, and this is Unsolved Australia, the Black Ridge tragedy.